And Andy West is with us. Andy is also best known as the author of Lionel Messi and the Art of Living. How is Lionel Messi living these days, Andy? What's going on?
He's not very happy. There's a short way of putting it. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about my book. That's not the point of this. But the reason I wrote the book in that way is because I think we can look at his life, his career, and get a great deal out of it that we can relate to. And this is a prime example. Here we have arguably the greatest footballer ever going through a personal, professional crisis. He's reached the point where, despite being with a magnificent club where he's enjoyed incredible success and recognition and riches, he feels there is no way for him to continue there and that he has to force his way out of this club. And I think it's absolutely genuine. There's very little question that this is a game, that he's using it for a contract or as a power play or anything like that. He just wants to leave because he's had enough, and he is in a bad place right now. He just wants to get out of it and get into a better situation.
It's madness to think that Barcelona have been sitting on a team with the best player in the world, backboned by a team who was good enough to win a World Cup for Spain, and that they've underachieved and invested so chronically over the last 5 years to the point where they're forcing the best thing that's ever happened to them to leave. It's madness.
It is madness, and it's a series of bad decisions dating back, I'd say, 10 years since Sandro Rosell took over as president. And back then, if we think back not just to the football that they played under Pep Guardiola, but that the image the whole club had as Mesqueon Club, they didn't have a shirt sponsor, they gave it to UNICEF. They were that kind of club. Everyone admired them for their values as well as for their football. But all of that has been eroded. Everything has been destroyed, really, by firstly Rosell and then by Bartomeu, the current president, who really is the author of this demise by making bad decisions. And you wonder, why has he made such bad decisions? Is it just incompetence? I think that's the kindest thing we could say, is that he is well-meaning, trying to do his best for the club, but he's incompetent. He's out of his depth. He can't cope with this level of pressure. He doesn't have the intelligence to make good decisions. He doesn't have the force of personality to make good decisions under pressure. And he has made a series of terrible recruitment decisions that eventually have caught up with the team. And yes, this is obviously the final straw in the destruction of the team, but it's been coming. We've seen it over many years, going back to when they lost that game 4-0 at PSG. Yes, they somehow turned that around, a famous victory to win the tie, but the writing was on the wall at that point and has continued. Every time they've come up against top quality opposition ever since, they've crumbled, and it's just been getting worse and worse and worse. And this is just the latest in a long trend.
If they manage to sell Messi by Friday, Bartomeu will have got rid of a manager, a sporting director, and their best ever player in the space of a fortnight. It will have been one of the most extraordinary self-destructions influenced by the head of a football club that we've ever seen in modern football. We kind of spoke about this earlier on in the show, but how is this allowed to happen, basically, is the question that I would certainly have, not being around a club, not knowing exactly the inside fabric of the club, that one individual can really have such a destructive impact on a club.
Yeah, as I said a couple of minutes ago, it's just bad decisions. And one of those bad decisions, Messi isn't completely innocent in this. He has been granted and taken too much power, too much influence over the direction of the club. And they've been caught between, the directors, led by Bartomeu, have been caught between trying to do what they think is best for the long-term future of the club, often in a wildly ineffective and knee-jerk way, such as signing Coutinho, who never looked like he was going to fit in at Barcelona, for a huge amount of money. They've been caught between trying to do the best for the club in their way and trying to keep Messi happy by doing things like not benching Luis Suarez or selling him when they could have done. You know, if you think back to Manchester United and the way they were able to stay at the top for so long under Sir Alex Ferguson, it's because he made ruthless decisions. As soon as he felt that a player or a group of players were becoming too big, too influential, bigger than the club, he would just get rid of them with no hesitation. And Barcelona haven't done that. They've allowed the team to stagnate and become decadent. I think that's the word. They've gone into decay through decadence, through complacency, through not making the hard decisions about how to rebuild the team when they still had the chance to, before it became too late. Now it's way too late.
That's exactly the Barcelona that Leo Messi came into, where Ronaldinho was eating ice cream at training, essentially, where he was partying and he was bringing the young Messi out, partying to the point where they came in and were like, okay, you got to go. You have to go because you're going to bring Messi down a path that will actually be bad for him. It's funny, this club is just addicted to the celebrity and the fame and the money and the, like, it reminds me a little bit of Miami. Just the bang of, I don't know if you've seen all those documentaries about Miami exploding on the cocaine money, and like the decadence is the thing that ultimately decays the whole city, that prevents it from ever becoming this amazing place that it could be. And it feels like Barcelona is just trapped in this endless cycle. Finally, they seem to reach some level of where they should be at when they had the best player in the world and the best team in the world, and they won 2 Champions Leagues in 4 seasons. But Pep Guardiola walked away from it. And actually, you know, you're talking about Sandro Rosell. If they could have just said, okay, Pep, take a year out, go and travel the world, go and live in America, learn your English in New York, but come back to us. We'll keep the hot seat warm for you. Come back to us. Maybe this could have been saved.
Maybe, but he already saw what was coming, because he did not have a good relationship with Sandro Rosell, who was the president at the time. That wasn't the president who recruited him. He came in under the previous president, Joan Laporta, and had a great relationship with him. But then when Rosell took over, Guardiola already saw where it was potentially going. The one thing I think we should mention as the great what-if moment in Barcelona's recent history. Yes, as you say, if Guardiola had been persuaded to stay or have a sabbatical and come back, maybe that would have changed things. But so too could have been if Tito Vilanova hadn't passed away. He was Guardiola's assistant and his successor. He was the one who had been through that era and was the continuity. He had a big personality. He had the courage to make big decisions. Then tragically, halfway through his first season in charge after Guardiola left, Vilanova was the manager, doing very well. Messi was playing better than ever. He had a recurrence of cancer and passed away a year or so later. That is a tragedy on a personal level, obviously, for his family, to lose someone so young in his 40s, and for the club. What would have happened if Tito Vilanova had been able to have 4 or 5 years as Barcelona manager and continue what Guardiola had started with Tito at his side? That is, if we want to look at the big picture, the great what-if moment.
Andy, to be kind of devil's advocate to this whole idea that Lionel Messi has been screwed over by the club here a little bit. Being devil's advocate can come in the shape of Luis Suarez. And you mentioned how his decline as a footballer has been noticeable in recent years. He is not at the level right now, a lot of people will argue, to lead Barcelona from the front to go and win a Champions League. However, Lionel Messi is extremely loyal to Luis Suarez. The way he has been immediately treated by Ronald Koeman apparently doesn't sit well with Lionel Messi. Should there not be questions of Lionel Messi in that situation about him, I guess, sulking and essentially being a part of his reasoning to leave the club because of the fact that Luis Suarez has immediately been cast aside by Ronald Koeman? Does there not need to be a question around that should Messi not allow Suarez to leave because he isn't at Messi's level anymore?
Yeah, but he's not just leaving because Luis Suarez has been told that he's on his way out. That's one of the many, many factors. He reportedly wasn't happy with his own conversation with Koeman. And Koeman, we're hearing, told him, you're no longer going to get any privileges. I'm going to be inflexible with you. It's not just about Luis Suarez. But as I said a few minutes ago, yes, Messi is not completely blameless in this, and there have been accusations against him for years that he is too powerful in the dressing room. The nickname that sometimes appears is the little dictator. That goes back years, and it first surfaced, as far as I can recall, just after Tito Villanova, who I mentioned a minute ago, had to leave the club. And they went through a period of great uncertainty with weak leadership in the dressing room and in the boardroom. And yes, Messi hasn't been blameless in that respect, and he's always been at his best when he's played under strong leaders. Pep Guardiola, Luis Enrique in particular, are the two managers who've got the best out of him. They're the two strongest personalities he's played under, who've not taken any nonsense, who've told him this is what we're doing. But Messi has reacted in the way that he has and taken that level of responsibility, too much responsibility, because he's felt he's had to, because he's seen the gulf in leadership, the lack of authority around him, and felt, well, if I don't do this, no one else is going to. I'm going to have to try and pick up this team on my own. It's the same thing we've seen with Argentina, exactly the same, that when they have been a shambles, as they generally have been throughout his time as an international, that's when he's been at his worst, because he's tried to do too much. Exactly what happened in the last World Cup. They were horribly unprepared. Messi thought the only way they got any success is if I try to do everything myself, and it backfired, as it only inevitably can in a team sport. So yes, he's not been blameless because he's tried to take on too much himself, but that's only because he's felt that he's had to.
What's your belief on how this contract situation is going to go? Because if the tables were turned here, Andy, I'm sure you'll agree that if Messi's contract expired this summer, he would have been asked to play the remainder of the season. Barcelona would have said, well, the season isn't over, you're playing right up until the end of August. Now that the tables are set in this correct manner, surely Barcelona should also play by those rules.
Well, it depends on the interpretation of this clause, which will quickly become one of the most famous contract clauses in sporting history, that allows him to leave the club free, with no obligations, at the end of the season if he notifies them at the end of the season. He claims he's just done that. The club claim that the clause is June is when he has to tell them, which in normal circumstances obviously is the end of the season. And I believe the wording in the contract even states the date, the 10th of June, in which case Messi's claim that he's done it now and that it's valid because the end of the season has just happened and that it should be taken into account that the whole season was rescheduled because of COVID, etc., that argument probably won't stand up in a court of law, which is where this is likely to head. Barcelona are very unlikely to say, okay, yeah, we'll let you off then, off you go. Yeah, we'll let you leave for nothing. And in a way, why should they? If he wants to leave, they should try and get money out of it. We're talking about a lot of money for a club who don't have any. So, yeah, but Messi, likewise, isn't going to back down and say, okay, I'll stand by that. Forget my clause. I will wait until someone negotiates or brings 700 million. So it's probably going to end up in a court of law to see how this clause is interpreted, and then we'll have to take it from there.
Presumably some deal gets done in a back channel between Barcelona, Messi and whoever is willing to make an investment in him, and a price gets hammered out, because it will be demeaning for Barcelona to be in court with their greatest ever player, who at some point in the future they will still want to sell jerseys with Messi on the back of, you know, the 20th anniversary of Leo Messi winning something is a lot of future revenue for the club. If they get to the point where they've humiliated him in court, unlikely. I mean, they've got to play a long game here as well.
Yeah, but I think we've got to separate the club, Barcelona, that you're talking about, the long-term institution that will survive this and that will always hold Messi as a special part of the club's history, and Bartomeu, the president. This is personal. And he is the one who will decide how the club deals with this. He loves a court battle. When recently one of his directors resigned and made some allegations about him, his first reaction, take him to court. That's what Bartomeu does. It's not about Barcelona as a club. It's about what Bartomeu wants to do. And he has a lot at stake in not backing down and trying to beat Messi in this. It's personal between them now. So Bartomeu will want to go the legal route, and what the wider club and its fans want to do is, sadly, pretty much irrelevant. In a few months, that also becomes irrelevant because Bartomeu will leave when his tenure comes to an end and there'll be a new president. And then the club can mend its relationship with Messi, who by then will have probably gone. But for now, it's about Bartomeu, who is saving face and trying to save money, because there's this story that if he leaves with the club in debt, then he personally would be liable to repaying the club. So he has to sort out the club's finances before he leaves, which is why he's not just resigning now.
Okay, I mean, that's a good point that we probably should have aired before now, that there is this weird scenario where if the club is in hock, the directors who put it in hock are actually on the hook for the debt. So,
yeah.
And Barcelona have invested so horrifically in recent seasons. The notion of them getting money back for Dembele or Griezmann or Coutinho at the moment seems quite fanciful. So, you know, if you could get some money from Messi, gut instinct, Andy, what price is Leo Messi on the open market right now?
The 100 million comes to mind. That was the figure that Ronaldo went to Juventus, wasn't it? And I think that would be, it's a round figure, and there's egos involved, and Messi would not want to be valued lower than Cristiano Ronaldo. And it seems a fair amount for a player who would still give 2, 3, maybe more great years. He is still an astonishing player. I think it would be an acceptable, just about fee for Barcelona to accept, for Bartomeu to accept. It would be an acceptable valuation for Messi to be seen as the same as Cristiano when he left Real Madrid. And it would be just about acceptable for a buying club. It's not unrealistic for a PSG, a Man City, or an Inter Milan to pay that level. So around 100 million would be my guess.
So one Jadon Sancho plus 20 million, or Leo Messi plus 20 million equals Jadon Sancho these days. You know, suddenly 100 million seems just about doable for a few clubs going, could we maybe catapult ourselves into the stratosphere of super clubs? If you're Daniel Levy, do you think, you know, I could 100 million quid?
No, well, forget that, because Jose Mourinho, no way Messi will play Mourinho. No way.
Jose, I like your style, but, you know, I'm sorry, we got...
No way.
It's so there is a possibility here, Andy, of a middle ground, because initially when you look at reports, it's going to be for free or for 700 million euro, but there may be a gentleman's agreement involving plenty of gentlemen that might get you something in the region of 100 to 150 million euro.
Yeah, I think that will probably be the way it will be, because Messi won't want to sit out the season and then leave for nothing, as he will be entitled to because his contract is up next summer. He won't want to just not play this season, so he'll want to get a deal done. It's unlikely that he'll win a court case that would allow him to leave for nothing, which would open up a huge range of potential clubs who otherwise might feel themselves priced out. So for everyone, Barcelona's to make some money out of it, Messi to be able to play this season, and clubs to be able to buy him, then yeah, middle ground. That's, you know, we've seen it time and time again when you have disaffected players who want to leave a club, clubs who want to sign him, other clubs who are prepared to make a sale if the price is right. It's what happens in football all the time. This is an extraordinary case because it's Lionel Messi, but ultimately it will just be a footballer leaving a club, and that middle ground will be found as it always is.
We assume Manchester City and we assume Paris Saint-Germain are in the sweepstakes at this point. Are any other... Inter have made noises and apparently have long lusted after Leo Messi and have made overtures, Graham said, since he was a teenager. Are there any other realistic, if there is a transfer fee involved, are there any other realistic protagonists in this at the moment?
The only other one I'd add is Manchester United, which is a bit of an outlier because we talk about Manchester United and the transfer market and everybody starts laughing. They've not exactly covered themselves in glory in the last few years. So, and they're probably the least favourites out of the candidate clubs. It's the three you mentioned, City, PSG, and My personal hunch is for Inter, but United have to be considered, and there's an interesting reason why I think they have to be considered. In March, the biggest sports story of the year at the time, it's now been eclipsed, was in the States, where the legendary quarterback Tom Brady, one of the greatest players in American football history, left the New England Patriots and joined Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Big shock. Who owns the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? The Glazers. So when they make these moves, they make big moves. They may see what they did in Tampa and think, we'll do the Tom Brady of football now. It's a possibility. It's unlikely, but it's a possibility.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I actually, like, even from a playing perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Like when you look at Solskjaer's career, there were always a multiplicity of striking options for Ferguson. Whenever he looked at the bench, there was always somebody there. So Leo Messi doesn't want to play 60 games a season. He doesn't have to play 60 games a season. He can play in all of the home Champions League games and any of the away Champions League games against good teams. He can then play in the 35 or 30 league games that are vitally important. You never play him in the Cup. You never play him in the League Cup. And he can play any one of those front three. So whoever is coming in, everybody's playing the same amount of games. And next time you go shopping in Dortmund, they're like, actually, we'll give him to you for 80 million because we understand you don't need him anymore.
And what Messi needs is, and this has been Barca's problem, and it was really highlighted in the Champions League, that famous game against Bayern. What Messi needs is young kids around him who will run. Because football now has evolved, even in the last 10 years, since Guardiola's great team. It's become much more athletic, much more dynamic. Look at the physical strength, the bodies of players now. When you compare people like Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba, they're just physically with the Bayerns. And Barcelona don't have that. That's one of the main reasons they've fallen off a cliff so dramatically, is that they don't have athleticism. They're full of old players in their 30s. United have all these youngsters who could allow Messi to not run, allow him to be the luxury player up front and do all this running for him, all the buzzing around him. It could work. It could work. It would be a massive challenge for Solskjaer coaching to get that to work, to get the balance right. But yeah, in a football sense, in that way, it could be a good fit as well, because you've got the Martial, Rashford, Greenwood, these young kids who will be happy to do the running for Messi and receive his glorious assists and set him up for chances that he'll take. So yeah, maybe Manchester United.
So they're in the mix. You think the Inter are the most likely. So if we were to power rank those, it would be Man United 4, Paris Saint-Germain 3, City 2, Inter 1, is that right?
Yeah, I'd go with that. And I think Inter are the most likely because they've been the most persistent. They've got the money. They're owned by a Chinese corporation with no ends of money. They're desperate to get back to the top in Italy, firstly, with Juventus 9 leagues in a row. They're desperate to end that. They weren't far off this year. And their president has spoken openly about wanting to sign Messi. This is his chance. It's there for him. So if they want it, they can get it. And Italy might appeal to Messi culturally more than Manchester. So I'd just put it to Inter as favourites.
Andy, you get a new chapter for the next version of your book, Workplace Disputes, as directed by Leo Messi.
Yeah, or Lionel Messi and the Art of Leaving, as someone said. We'll see.
Andy, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.